Jiu-Jitsu 2000 here today. I'm coming at you with an interesting video. Today we're going to make some simple olive oil soap. Now this is a recipe that I like to use. It's very, very simple. Makes a pretty good sized batch and it uses only 3 ingredients. The first thing that we're going to use is olive oil. The second ingredient is lye, and the third ingredient is just water. You notice that it calls for 17 ounces of olive oil. That's because the type of olive oil that I get, it comes in a 17-ounce bottle. That's why I've adjusted my recipe for 17 ounces of olive oil. Again, it's 2.28 ounces of lye and 5.62 ounces of water. And again, this recipe will render approximately 24.9 ounces of olive oil soap. Now on the stove behind you, or should I say behind me, you can see that I have my lye already pre-measured out. It's already weighed. I also have my water already measured out, and obviously we have 17 ounces of olive oil. A lot of people like to use the hand stick blenders to mix the ingredients together. I don't have one of those, so I'm going to be using a simple hand mixer. Looks like the bottom of this was dirty. I was making some tallow soap earlier. So I'm going to use this regular hand mixer. I'm going to mix this thing on high speed. The only downside to using these type of mixers is they take a lot more time to get the soap to come to a trace. So if you have a hand blender versus a hand mixer, I'd recommend the hand blender. Now in the future you might see me making soap using a hand blender. Now I have a bowl here, obviously a mixing bowl. I have a wooden spoon. I'm going to be using that throughout the process. And last but not least, I have a mold that I'm going to use. Now you're probably wondering where I got this. This is very simple. I found it around the house. It's a Swiffer container. So when I buy my Swiffers, this is what it comes in. So I'm going to be using that for my mold. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add my water into my mixing bowl. And very carefully, I'm going to add my lye. Now be careful at this point. Make sure you have some safety glasses on, because when you mix the lye into the water, it creates a chemical reaction and it produces a gas. This is a dangerous gas if you breathe it, so you also want to make sure that you're in a very well ventilated area. Another thing that's very important is you never ever mix the liquid into the dry lye. You want to do it the opposite. You always put the dry content into the liquid. So I'm going to go ahead and put the the lye into the water. Okay. This process will create some heat, and it'll also create those fumes that I'm talking about. Don't worry about it too much. Just make sure you're well ventilated. You can see some steam coming up off of this. That's because of the heat coming up. I'm going to set this spoon aside for a minute, and I'm going to use my hand mixer. The hand mixer is simply to introduce these chemicals together. I want to mix this water and lye until it gets pretty well clear. You know, it doesn't need to be crystal clear obviously, but I need it to be fairly clear. Now at this point I'm going to go ahead and add my olive oil to the mixer. Sounds like we have a cricket singing somewhere. So let me open up this olive oil. Again, this is just pure olive oil. I'm going to mix it right in. This is going to make a beautiful batch of soap. 17 ounces of olive oil. You want to be careful when you mix this stuff because you don't want to get the soap in its liquid form on your arms or anything like that. So there we have 17 ounces of olive oil. From here, put this bottle away. I don't need that right now. Whoops, excuse me. And I'm going to go ahead and mix. Now I'm going to mix this thing on high speed until I get to a trace. So I'll see you in a few. If you want to avoid any kind of splashing during the mixing process, what I like to do is I like to just throw a towel right over the top, right over my hand, and this will keep things from splattering around while you're doing your mixing. Okay everybody, I'm back, and what I want to show you right now is that my soap has been blended or mixed enough to the point where it leaves a trace. Now let me show you what that means. Let me get zoomed in here. You can see that when I move these beaters around that it kind of follows. You can see how the material just kind of follows. It leaves a little trace. That's the consistency that I want. Just to the point where it leaves a trace. See that? Hope you can see that on the film here. It's almost in a state, almost like what pudding would be. Okay, once I got my soap where it's leaving the trace, I'm going to go ahead and spin these beaters because I want to spin the stuff off, and obviously I don't want it flying all over the kitchen, so I'm going to turn these on a low speed and just kind of barely lift it out of the bowl, nice and slow. I went up to high speed, spun them just above the level of the soap just to get what I could off of them. You see the bottom of my mixer's all dirty. I'm going to set this aside for now. I'll clean all that later. Now I'm going to take my mold. Again, this is a Swiffer container. It's a plastic. I'm going to use it for a soap mold. I'm going to take this soap and I'm just going to pour it all the way down into this mold. If you had a rubber spatula, you could probably use that, but I make this quite often, so I don't need to get all the excess out of the bowl. Go ahead and set that aside. Now from here I'm just going to kind of wiggle this just to kind of get it all in the same shape, if you will. Put it lengthwise, put my lid on. That'll protect things from crashing into it. And last but not least, put a couple of rags on top, little towels. What this will do is this will keep it nice and warm, and it'll give it that cooking effect. So from here I'm just going to let this soap sit overnight, and we'll see you in approximately 24 hours. Well, good morning everybody, welcome back. Let's take a look at this simple olive oil soap. It's had a chance to sit pretty much all night. Let's take a look and see what we have here. Wow, that's set up really nice. Really nice looking bar of soap. I'm going to try to see if I can get this stuff out. Now, using these old containers like this, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to get the soap out. So I'm just tracing the outer edge with my knife in hopes that I'm going to be able to loosen this bar, and hopefully we'll be able to get this thing out in one piece. So again, I'm just tracing the outer edge with the blade. This is a softer bar of soap than the last soap that I made. The last one that I made was a tallow soap. This bar is a little bit softer. Let's see how we can get this baby out. I'm going to just try to flop it straight down. There we go. Came out nice and clean, for the most part anyway. Now I'm going to cut this thing in strips. Whatever size bars you want, that's the size you would cut. And I'm not really measuring anything or nothing like that, just making a nice little cut. If you want to measure it and things like that, you can, of course. This is still really soft at this point. I made this one last night, so it probably could have used a little more time to set, but nonetheless. Take a look. Cut one more section, I think. This last bar will be kind of small. Now, I'm basically going to just cut all these babies in half. When it comes to making these bars, again, it's not that big of a deal. It's not rocket science, folks. So now I have all my little bars of soap. What I like to do now is I like to cure the soap. So I have a cardboard box here, and I also have a small grid. I'm going to set this grid into the cardboard box. What this will do, and what I'm hoping to get out of this, is I'm hoping to put the bars of soap on top of this grid, and that'll allow airflow. That'll encourage airflow into the soap so it'll cure. I need to cure the soap before I use it. So I'm just taking these bars that I've just cut. Again, they're really soft right now. I should have let them sit a little longer. I'll show you what I'm doing here in a second. This recipe makes a beautiful bar of soap. I'm not trying to bore you here, I'm just taking my time. Now I'll take the camera and I'll show you what I'm looking at here. So this is what I have for now. I've got my simple olive oil soap, and it's all inside, sitting on the rack, and it's going to be ready to cure. Now I want to let this soap cure for between 4 and 6 weeks. And halfway during the cure, I'll probably flip them over, since it was soft when it went in here. So I'll probably flip them over halfway. One way to tell if they're cure, if they're done, is to take one of the small bars out and try it. And if it's kind of acidic to your hands, you still need to let it cure a little longer. So everybody, I want to say thank you for watching my video today on how to make simple olive oil soap. I hope you found it useful. I hope you got some good information out of it. Please feel free to comment, share, like, thumbs up, and as always, have a beautiful day, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Go make some simple olive oil soap. Bye-bye.